Most passengers didn't notice how their Uber driver's eyes tracked signs of impairment that didn't match alcohol consumption, or how he lingered at pickup locations where young women seemed unusually disoriented. They just wanted safe rides home. They had no idea the man driving them once investigated predators who used date rape drugs to commit crimes that victims couldn't remember. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of protecting vulnerable people from predators who exploit nightlife, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. The downtown entertainment district came alive every Friday and Saturday night, transforming into a maze of neon lights, crowded sidewalks, and the kind of vibrant nightlife that drew young professionals, college students, and tourists looking for weekend entertainment. Bars, clubs, and restaurants competed for customers with drink specials, live music, and the promise of memorable nights out with friends. Mike Rodriguez began his rideshare shifts at 9 p.m., positioning himself near the busiest pickup locations where people would need safe transportation home after their nights of celebration. At 54, he looked exactly like thousands of other rideshare drivers, professional, reliable, and focused on providing good customer service to passengers who ranged from slightly tipsy to completely intoxicated. But Mike's observation of passenger behavior went far beyond normal driver vigilance. While most rideshare drivers focused on navigation, passenger safety, and maintaining high ratings, Mike automatically monitored signs of impairment that suggested something more dangerous than alcohol consumption. His trained eye recognized the difference between normal intoxication and chemical incapacitation. His experience taught him to identify victims of crimes they wouldn't remember. What his passengers didn't know was that Mike Rodriguez had never been just a driver. For 16 years, he'd been Detective Mike Rodriguez, Special Victims Unit, specializing in sexual assault investigations, date rape drug cases, and crimes where predators used chemical substances to incapacitate victims before committing assaults that left survivors with no memory of what had happened to them. His retirement 2 years ago had been earned through decades of investigating the most difficult crimes in law enforcement. His ability to recognize the signs of drug-facilitated sexual assault had been permanent. "Thank you so much," said Jessica Chen, a 25-year-old marketing professional who had requested a ride from Velvet Nightclub. She moved carefully into the back seat, her coordination slightly off in a way that concerned Mike immediately. "No problem," Mike replied, noting that Jessica's speech patterns and motor control suggested impairment beyond the 2 drinks she mentioned having consumed. "How was your night?" "It was good, I think," Jessica said, sounding confused. "I don't really remember much after. I was just dancing with my friends, and then suddenly I felt really dizzy." Mike's training immediately activated. Memory gaps, unexplained dizziness, and coordination problems that exceeded alcohol consumption were classic indicators of drug-facilitated assault attempts. "Where are your friends?" Mike asked, already adjusting his route to pass by the emergency room instead of going directly to Jessica's apartment. I'm not sure. I think they left. Or maybe I left them. Everything is kind of blurry." Mike had heard this exact conversation hundreds of times during his SVU career, usually from victims who had been drugged but managed to escape before assaults could be completed. The memory gaps, confusion, and disorientation were symptoms of Rohypnol, GHB, or other substances designed to incapacitate victims. "Jessica," Mike said gently, "I think someone may have put something in your drink tonight. I'm going to take you to the hospital to make sure you're okay." What happened next was 16 years of sexual assault investigation experience compressed into the most important rideshare trip of Mike's civilian life. He didn't drive Jessica home where she would have been alone and vulnerable. Instead, he took her to the hospital where medical professionals could test for date rape drugs and ensure her safety while the substances cleared her system. At the hospital, Mike waited while Jessica received medical attention. When she was stable and alert enough to understand what had happened, he explained his background and helped her file a police report about the incident at Velvet Nightclub. "Detective Martinez," Mike said when the responding officer arrived, "I'm retired SVU. This victim shows classic signs of drug-facilitated assault attempt. She needs a full tox screen and detailed interview when she's more coherent." Over the next week, Mike found himself conducting the kind of investigation that had characterized his police career. Not an official investigation, just the systematic observation of patterns that could help prevent other young women from becoming victims. He began documenting the nightclub scene with the trained eye of someone who understood how predators operated in entertainment venues. Pickup locations where unusually impaired passengers requested rides, time patterns that suggested coordinated drugging operations, behavioral indicators that distinguished normal partygoers from assault victims. "Mike," said Detective Lisa Santos, who had worked with him in SVU before his retirement, "Jessica Chen's tox screen came back positive for Rohypnol, high concentration, consistent with assault preparation. She wanted me to thank you for getting her to the hospital instead of taking her home alone." "Any leads on who drugged her?" Mike asked. "We're investigating, but the club is claiming they don't have clear security footage of the bar area where it happened. Convenient memory loss." Mike had encountered uncooperative nightclub management hundreds of times during his SVU career. Entertainment venues that prioritized profits over customer safety often obstructed investigations to avoid negative publicity. That weekend, Mike did something he hadn't done since his official retirement. He returned to active investigation work. Not officially, but with the informal cooperation of Detective Santos and the SVU unit, Mike began operating as an undercover rideshare driver, specifically targeting the entertainment district. His goal was to identify patterns of drug-facilitated assault attempts and gather evidence that could prevent other women from becoming victims. Over the next month, Mike rescued 3 more women who showed signs of being drugged, documented evidence of systematic date rape drug distribution, and identified the network of predators using multiple nightclubs to target victims. "We've arrested 12 suspects, including 2 club employees," Detective Santos told him during a briefing at the police station. The drugging network was operating at 4 different nightclubs, with bartenders and security staff facilitating assault attempts by identifying isolated victims and ensuring they received drugged drinks. "Prosecution timeline?" Mike asked. "Strong cases on all of them. Your victim identification and evidence collection prevented at least a dozen completed sexual assaults. The DA is calling it one of the most important sex crime prevention operations we've ever conducted." The investigation revealed that the date rape drug network had been operating for over 18 months, systematically targeting young women at popular nightclubs while bribing staff to facilitate assault attempts and obstruct investigations. Mike never sought publicity for his work. He continued driving rideshare routes on weekend nights, but now other drivers knew to contact him if they picked up passengers who seemed unusually impaired. SVU detectives began coordinating with rideshare companies to identify drivers who could recognize signs of drug-facilitated assault attempts. "Mike," Detective Santos said during one of their regular check-ins, "you know we could use someone with your experience as a consultant. The rideshare angle is something we never had access to before your retirement." Mike looked at his phone, which showed ride requests from passengers who trusted him to get them home safely, including young women who had no idea their driver was someone who had spent his career protecting people from exactly the predators they might encounter during nights out. "I'm exactly where I need to be," he said simply. Mike Rodriguez never advertised his background in sexual assault investigation. He never told passengers that he was a retired SVU detective. He just drove people home safely, watched for signs of impairment that suggested criminal activity, and quietly ensured that women who had been targeted by predators received help instead of becoming victims. Every Friday and Saturday night, Mike continued his rideshare shifts. Most of the time, he transported normal passengers who had enjoyed responsible nights out with friends. But some nights, when his trained instincts recognized the signs of drug-facilitated assault attempts, Mike Rodriguez was exactly where he needed to be, between predators and the women they had targeted for crimes that would destroy lives. Because that's what you do when you've spent your career investigating sexual assault crimes. You don't stop protecting people when you retire. You just find a new way to intercept predators before they can complete their attacks. And sometimes the most important sexual assault prevention in a city happens in the backseat of an Uber, driven by someone who knows exactly what drug-facilitated assault looks like and refuses to let it happen to anyone in his care. Mike had spent 16 years investigating crimes that destroyed women's lives through chemical incapacitation and assault. Now he spent his retirement ensuring that potential victims received medical attention and police protection instead of being delivered to apartments where they would be alone and vulnerable. The mission was the same. The predators were the same. The only difference was that now, instead of investigating sexual assault crimes after they occurred, he was preventing them by recognizing the symptoms before assaults could be completed. And every weekend night, as young people enjoyed downtown nightlife, Mike Rodriguez drove with the eyes and experience of someone who knew the difference between normal intoxication and criminal drugging, ready to protect passengers from predators who used entertainment venues as hunting grounds. So the next time you call a rideshare after a night out, remember that your driver might have expertise far beyond navigation and customer service. The person making sure you get home safely might be the same person who spent their career investigating the crimes that happen to people who don't make it home safely. Have you ever met someone like Mike, someone whose retirement work perfectly positioned them to protect vulnerable people using their professional expertise? Share their story in the comments below. Tell us about the quiet professionals who never stop protecting people from predators who exploit trust and entertainment venues. Thank you for watching The Human Stories. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who believes in protecting people from sexual assault crimes. Because the world needs more people like Mike Rodriguez, professionals who understand that some protection is too important to end with retirement. Until next time, remember that guardians come in all forms. Sometimes they wear police badges and investigate sex crimes. Sometimes they drive rideshare vehicles and watch for assault victims. But they're always protecting vulnerable people from predators, always ensuring that nights out remain fun rather than traumatic, always ready to intercept criminals before they can destroy innocent lives. And sometimes, the most important sexual assault prevention in your city comes from someone who spent their career learning exactly how predators operate and refuses to let them succeed in any community he serves.